Kingdom is my favorite zombie show, and it's not even close. For those who don't know, Kingdom is, crudely put, a Korean zombie show that came out on Netflix in 2019. But of course it's more than that, or else I wouldn't be making a video about it. As someone whose formative years were spent at the height of the zombie media craze, I've been around the undead block a time or two. I've seen the good, the bad, and well, let's face it, they're all ugly. If there's any genre that needs a subversion, it's zombies. Audiences have seen it all. You just can't sell me on Mr. Nuclear Family fighting the undead anymore. In a world where people were growing tired of the American take on zombies, the Korean wave of media brought with it Train to Busan. Train to Busan opened up a lot of opportunities for Korean zombie media, both within Korea and internationally. It's just a solid zombie movie. It's one of my favorites. Fast forward to the 2020s, The Walking Dead is over. Kind of. I guess it's more like its namesake. It's dead, but it just keeps on going. There was a global pandemic, but they're still popping out zombie movies and shows like nobody's business. I mean, who could forget such zombie classics as Love is Blind and Avatar: The Last Airbender? God, Zombie Love is Blind sounds like a bit from the end of Shaun of the Dead, and it still would have been better than season 9. Anyway, despite this perfect storm, I don't think Kingdom has gotten the recognition it deserves. Don't get me wrong, it's still pretty popular, but I think it deserves to be an international household name. So why is it such a great zombie show? The setting. And I don't mean the beautiful view we get of the Korean countryside. Kingdom takes place during the Joseon period of Korea, and I have never seen a zombie show use every aspect of its setting so effectively. The history and culture, the zombies, hell, even how the premise is framed so perfectly within that setting. So I want to do a deep dive into the aspects of the show and how they're a much needed subversion of an oversaturated genre. Yes, this is not the only zombie genre subversion, but it's rare to see one that isn't using comedy or parody as a means to subvert. So, let's explore Kingdom and how it uses its setting to subvert the zombie genre. If it wasn't obvious, I'm gonna spoil the hell out of this show. I'd love you to go watch this show and come back as obsessed as I am, but if you're anything like me, you won't. So honestly, as long as you watch and like this video, maybe learn a thing or two, I'll be happy. I'd say this show is worth watching, spoiled or not, and I'm not going to go into every plot aspect. But if you'd like to save yourself from some spoilers, you have some options. In the next chapter, I will discuss the premise. This is a spoiler-free overview just to give you an idea of the show and whether you'd like it. I will then explore the historical context of the show, which has some light spoilers of certain plot elements, but in the last bit, I will explore how the zombies works, which requires a full deep dive into the show. Timestamps are down below so you can enjoy this video with the level of spoilers you deem appropriate. Some disclaimers. I tried my best with the pronunciations in this video. I'm sorry. I don't speak Korean. I truly did. There are some cases where I am going to default to an expert's opinion on these pronunciations, aka a native speaker. You're gonna notice throughout this video that the subtitles that I use in Netflix are turquoise. That is because when I was 12 and first getting into anime, I was tired of how white subtitles were too light and black subtitles were too dark. Therefore, I had the genius idea that turquoise would be the perfect in-between. And I was right. It has been over a decade. I have not changed the color of the subtitles since. I certainly will not change them now. I also do use closed captions because I find that funnier and I'm correct. Snarling. Screaming. Where else would you get that comedic experience? Okay, on with the video. So there's a lot going on with the premise of Kingdom, and to be honest, I do kind of get why it didn't take off like some other shows. This one is kind of a genre question mark, and I've struggled to pin down a friend demographic for it, aka who and how do I sell my friends on the show. So here's my best elevator pitch. Or like Empire State Building elevator, captive audience. Kingdom takes place roughly at the beginning of the 17th century during the Joseon period of Korea. Our hero, Lee Chang, is the only eligible heir to the throne, but he is the son of a concubine, meaning he is illegitimate. The current queen and the daughter of the powerful Cho clan's leader is pregnant. If she has a son, Lee Chang will no longer be heir and would likely be killed. But his father, the king, is very sick and no one has seen him in over a week. As such, Li Chang and his allies suspect he has died, but the Cho family refuses to cooperate and show proof that he is living. The Chos, desperate to have one of their own on the throne, have gone through some drastic measures to make sure this happens. There's a healthy blend of genres here. I think Netflix even struggled to give this show a genre classification. Its hook in the description is perfect for fans of Game of Thrones, which was a risk seeing as Kingdom came out in 2019. Personally, I didn't want to be reminded of Game of Thrones in 2019. I get the comparisons. You see Korean zombie media, you're gonna compare it to Train to Busan. You get political drama set in a vaguely medieval-looking time, you're gonna compare it to Game of Thrones. Marketing the show to a Western audience must have been complicated. Do we ride the Korean wave of media? Do we try to fill the hole that Game of Thrones left? Do we mention the zombies? Netflix only recommended this show to me in 2021 after I had watched Squid Game and The Last Kingdom. Fair enough? I get algorithmically having to suggest shows to people, but I feel like putting this show in the Korean media or the Game of Thrones-esque medieval style show is just not selling it enough. Most zombie media takes place in a more modern time, and most of the stories we get are people's survival stories. The genre has a lot of tropes and cliches, some very frustrating cliches. How can you not run on a flat fucking stir? Kingdom subverts all of this and finds effective ways to use these tropes. A lot of this is done by having the characters just react appropriately within their 16th to 17th century environment. When you have an audience that's seen it all, not just in the zombie genre, but the post-apocalyptic genre as well, you have to do more. That's why I like the fact that Kingdom has a lot going on. It's not just a political drama, and it certainly isn't just a zombie show. So that is my, we'll call it quick, spoiler-free overview of the show. Everything past this point will have spoilers. You have been warned. The cultural setting of Joseon is paired so well with your typical zombie tropes and cliches. For context, Joseon was a kingdom in modern-day Korea that was founded in 1392 and lasted for over 500 years. It saw the height of classical Korean culture and innovation and was largely guided by Confucian ideologies. We are immersed in the setting right at the opening of the show. We see a man covered in acupuncture needles and surrounded by the smoke of incense. Then we see said body covered in hemp cloth, some of which is removed to reveal incredibly regal clothing. Maybe that's a king, who knows? Hemp shrouds are used in traditional Korean burials, so to see this man covered in hemp cloth but have it removed means that something odd is happening. This is definitely a corpse and someone is tampering with it. We then fade to a purple flower which is ground up and boiled. We see a collar go around the corpse's neck before another acupuncture needle is inserted into its glabella. That's the space between your eyebrows. A liquid is poured into the man's mouth, which is already filled with salt. We cut to a monstrous-looking creature before returning to the corpse where we see his milky white eyes open. Here we are seeing different aspects of Eastern medicine with the herbal treatments and acupuncture, as well as the incense which is used for purposes of worship. I love that they established the origins of the zombies through aspects of Korean culture. This isn't a random disease or virus. This is an intentional ritual to bring someone back from the dead. It's a great hook right in the opening of the show and throws us right into the political turmoil as well. Our story begins 3 years in the aftermath of Japan's invasion of Korea, a reference to the Imjin War. References to this can also be seen in the injuries to some of the villagers throughout the show. Their heads are bandaged like this because Japanese soldiers were known to take the ears and noses of their victims as symbols of conquest. The country is impoverished and in the midst of a famine. For most of the commoners, they were already fighting for survival. Of course, the nobility is unaffected by this famine, and we see them fighting for power and control at the expense of the people. Li Chang himself is fighting for survival, knowing that his political enemies will kill him once the queen has an heir. Now the clan, desperate to keep power, brings the king back from the dead as a monster? You know, we've already set the stage for a disaster, why not add a zombie outbreak to the mix? Another aspect of Korean culture we see introduced later on in the show is the tiger hunters or the Chaco. One of the characters, Young-shin, was a soldier in the war. We eventually see that his skills are far more advanced than other soldiers, and he can use a gun, which is not a common skill to have, especially for a commoner. His abilities come from his time in the Chaco. During the Joseon period, tigers were a significant enough threat to warrant certain security measures. The Chaco were elite soldiers tasked with such security and caught or hunted tigers. Obviously, tigers were very dangerous animals to hunt, and members of the Chaco had short life expectancies. As such, the soldiers who fought them were highly skilled with various weapons, including guns. On the topic of guns, I love how Kingdom uses the limited technology from the time period. I find it makes the tropes we've come to expect from the genre more effective. I am so tired of the, "oh no, my gun is jammed" trope.
What do you mean your gun is jammed? It's the beginning of the apocalypse. Okay, you are from the Midwest. You know how guns work.
But the setting allows the writers to utilize this trope in a convincing way. The guns we see being used are matchlock pistols and are very complicated and difficult to use. Look at how much preamble they take just to get to the point of fire. This causes realistic suspense. These guns are also very difficult to aim in general. How do we get around this? Oh, let's make a character whose survival relied on him being able to use a gun. I can suspend my belief for something plausible like this. Guns, of course, aren't the only thing they can rely on to stop the zombies. We see the characters use bows and arrows, which can be effective in slowing down the hordes, but the zombies can only be killed by aiming for the head. At long distance like this, most archers can't aim. This inevitably leads to characters having to fight with swords, leaving them much more vulnerable. A lot of the reasons I find this refreshing are just due to the modern zombie genre climate. We get a lot of movies set in America where guns are easily available, and once certain parameters are met, you run out of situations where our characters are believably in peril without making something stupid or repetitive happen. The stakes are higher when the only weapons you have available are short-ranged. And then we have my least favorite trope, not killing the guy who was bit, or not getting rid of bodies that are clearly contaminated.
Boo. Boo.
Watching someone get bit and then having the characters proceed to be whiny bitches about it is the most annoying thing. Sure, it's sad, but audiences are just too mature for that crap now, because now the general attitude is,
For the love of God, they are dead. Just kill them already. God.
like, we have collectively lost that sympathy because we've seen it too many times. So how do you subvert that? That's right, filial piety. Okay, so unless you're fresh off of taking AP World History, you may not be well acquainted with the teachings of Confucianism. Confucianism was by far the dominant philosophy during the Joseon period and greatly impacted how the government was structured and how people acted in their day-to-day lives. While there are many teachings of Confucius, filial piety appears the most prominently in Kingdom. Essentially, filial piety emphasizes the importance and defines the practices of key societal and familial relationships and the need to show proper deference to one's elders. One criticism I've seen for the show is the frustration around some of the decisions that people make, like when the villagers refuse to burn the bodies of their loved ones. But this isn't just a, "oh no, but we've come so far, how can I kill them, oh no" trope. This is a belief based on centuries of tradition that mandates how you treat your family. This is a matter of social expectations and acceptance. This is a refreshing take on the tropes we've seen before. It's an effective use of dramatic irony rather than a frustrating one. I understand as an audience member that these reactions can be frustrating and feel like a convenient plot device. As I stated, modern audiences have grown numb to the idea that people have qualms about killing zombies. But Kingdom isn't doing that. Later on in the show, we see the exact opposite of this happen. People who are bitten are instantly killed. Well, of course, these early examples are plot devices, in that they move the plot forward. This isn't convenient or lazy writing. These are expected human reactions. In fact, this not happening and everyone being okay with the bodies being burnt would have been weird. Modern audience expectations aside, I think that no matter what, this is a hard concept for some people to empathize with. Some of us can push these societal expectations out of the way in dire enough circumstances, and seeing people succumb to societal pressures at the detriment to their own well-being is frustrating. We see these exact sentiments expressed through Young Shin. But probably the most important aspect of the show that I need to address is the hats. Oh my god, the hats. They are so cool. The costuming in general in this show is great. I love how the villagers are all wearing typical commoner clothing that isn't very flashy, and you'd think that makes some of the scenes look dull, but this is done to make them being covered in blood and various viscera more striking. But fuck that, the hats! I cannot emphasize enough how much my roommate and I talked about these hats while watching the show. Look at them run. Look at the feathers. The one that Lee Chang wears is called the
흑립입니다. 흑립.
or a gat and is by far my favorite because it's see-through, so you can see its top knot, but it also protects the top knot. I appreciate an accessory that is built for style and function. That hat is sick as hell and protects your top knot. I almost bought one of these hats for the video, just for fun, you know. And I found this buyer on Amazon that was clearly using scenes from Kingdom to advertise the hats, but they blurred out the characters' faces. But it's clearly from Kingdom. Like, is this for copyright? It's like an episode of Cops. Why are we protecting their privacy? They even blurred out this picture of an emperor. Like, that man is dead. Anyway, we also get the, which also has a cool-ass feather, but is apparently meant to be arrow-proof as well. Again, style, function. The hats of the Joseon period have it all. There's a really fun video on the Korean Netflix channel about the hats that I highly suggest if you'd like to learn more. I'll link that down below. Am I being silly here? No, I would never joke about hats. If you don't watch this show for me, do it for the gats. Before moving on, I think it's important to note some of the difficulties that I face when researching aspects of Korean history. I also want to explore what the Korean sentiment of the show is to see if there's anything that I, an American, would possibly overlook, seeing as I don't speak Korean, nor was I immersed in the Korean culture growing up. But most of what I found was just like, yeah, people like it. There's a Korean website called Namu Wiki, which is like a meme Wikipedia, so it gave me some vague idea of how some people critique the show in Korea, but I can't really call it a reliable resource. I was planning to talk about how much detail and care was put into the filming and editing of the show, but the Namu Wiki article mentions how terrible and inconsistent the accents and dialects are throughout. I had trouble verifying this, and again, I do not speak Korean, so I can't really determine this for myself. As such, I wasn't comfortable ranting and raving about the attention to detail in the show, as I couldn't verify that all of these details were in fact accurate. I will admit I could have done a bit more digging, but I decided that wasn't the right tree to bark up for this video. In doing research in a language I don't know with an alphabet that I am unfamiliar with is very intimidating and nausea-inducing. Google Lens is a lot, guys. Anyway, now we move on to the moment we've all been waiting for. You can't have a zombie show without the zombies.
Don't say that. What? That? What? That? The Z word. Don't say it.
Or, the infected. Wait. No, the walkers. Whatever. In Kingdom, they're called Gwemu, which is the Korean word for monster. In a zombie show, zombies are part of the setting. They are an important part of the world building. Their existence is the impetus for any events that unfold. And as a modern audience member, my suspension of disbelief is waning. I love consistent zombie mechanics. It just brings me deeper into the world. I love watching the characters try to figure out how the zombies work, their weaknesses, or maybe even a cure. Some mystery is okay, of course, but I love the payoff of solving mysteries. I totally get this is not the goal of all zombie media, and that's fine. To me, though, it will just fall immediately into the fun, campy category of zombie and not something I can take seriously. The zombies in Kingdom fit in perfectly, so let's explore their mechanics. As established in the opening, the origins of the monsters have roots in Eastern medicine. The Cho clan will do anything to make sure the next heir is within their family. The queen has yet to have a child, so the king's death puts all this at risk, leading them to perform the ritual to bring him back. Lee Chang knows they're hiding something, so he and his bodyguard flee the palace to search for the king's physician and find answers. What they find instead is a village that has been ransacked. Days prior, a physician was summoned to treat the already dead king, as the clan leader knew he could bring him back to life. Just as a flesh-eating monster. This monster attacked and killed the physician's assistant, and they were sent packing to their village and sworn to secrecy. This village, full of injured and starving refugees, was shocked at the near catatonic state of their physician and the ravaged state of his assistant. With no food left, one of the patients, the tiger hunter Yongshin, decides to secretly butcher and prepare the dead assistant. Starving and sick, no one questions where he got this mysterious deer. Overnight, the villagers begin to turn into monsters and attack the survivors, but rather than kill them like the king had done to the assistant, those who are bitten begin to turn into monsters themselves. Come dawn, the monsters retreat underneath homes and away from the sunlight, leaving the scene that Li Chang and his bodyguards stumble onto. The physician was killed in this attack, leaving behind one of his nurses, Sobe, to interpret his notes and get to the bottom of the outbreak. The physician detailed a ritual that was done during the war to bring the dead back as monsters they could use to defeat the Japanese. A plant known as the resurrection plant is crushed and inserted into the patient's forehead using an acupuncture needle. This plant is found in the frozen valley and only blooms during late autumn and winter. A lot of this lore and the zombie mechanics are established early on in the show. Actually, almost everything is revealed to us by episode 3, whether explicitly or through small hints. We know that the ritual itself creates the monsters, but their bite will just sicken and eventually kill its victims rather than turn them into monsters as well. But when the flesh of one of the monster's victims is cooked and consumed, then the disease evolves, allowing it to be spread via bite. It's something that they go out of their way to add, something to show that the disease is alive and can evolve. We're told about the resurrection plant, a plant that was found in the frozen valley and blooms during the coldest times of year. We see the zombies fleeing to cover during the daytime, and they lie dormant until nightfall. At first, this would lead you to believe they're afraid of the sunlight, but later on in the show, as we begin to fall into winter, we see the monsters active during the daytime. They don't dislike the sun, they just lie dormant in heat, just like the resurrection plant. Establishing most of the mechanics early on like this is risky. A lot of shows fall into inconsistent zombie mechanics, and as a prominent watcher of zombie media, again, my suspension of belief is fragile. Which is the most pretentious way I could think of saying, I hate when zombies just do it for the plot.
They can break through walls now. Why not just invite them over for tea?
But with Kingdom, they stay consistent with the rules and drop Easter eggs early on. When we're shown the resurrection plant, we can clearly see the leaves look weird. If you look closely, you realize that those are eggs, something which is stated explicitly later on. These eggs hatch into parasite, and that is what brings people back to life. And that's not all. As I mentioned, most of the lore and rules are given to us by episode 3. In that episode, some villagers are fleeing from the monsters and jump into a river. Besides those that were in front and taken by momentum, the rest of the zombies stop and refuse to go in the water. And not just as a fun little, oh cool, the zombies don't like water, we see why they don't. You see it? Here, wait.
Zoom in 3 more times. Enhance. Enhance. Now zoom out once.
There. The parasites drown in water and leave the body. We aren't explicitly told this until later when Sobe is trying to treat someone who is bitten and deduces that since they fear water, she should use that to cure her patient. All of the foundation for that moment was set by episode 3. Like I said, I'm a sucker for good zombie rules. Not just the rules, but the justification for them as well. They can be for supernatural reasons, that's fine, but don't tell me zombies hate the sun for funsies. Our characters also recognize these rules and use them to adapt to their situations. When the rules are changed, it's an effective storytelling tool. Season 1 ends with us finding out the zombies can be active during the day. Our characters spend a whole night waiting for the possibility of an attack and begin to let their defenses down when the sun rises, only to have everything shattered when the zombies come running from the woods. With the information we're given, everything starts to click, but it's too late. The zombies in the show just elevate the plot and give an aspect of urgency and mystery. They fit so well in the setting and aren't just an existential threat for the sake of having one. Looking again at the historical and cultural context of the show, the ritual that creates the monsters was a response to the Japanese invasion. An invasion that has left the country in a state of famine, which drives the commoners to eat a diseased body and led to the progression of the disease. Everything around the disease was the result of desperation and a fight for survival. While the decisions made are unfortunate, it's hard to fault the characters for making these decisions when their lives are on the line. Except for this guy, this was a blatant power grab for him. Now, I'm not going to compare the show to Game of Thrones because the two really aren't comparable, especially in terms of scale and storytelling. But if I was to compare them, I'd say the zombies here are what the White Walkers could have been in Game of Thrones. A way to bring some urgency to the political aspects of the show and existential stakes that affect those in power the same way it would affect the common folk. Instead of, just killing off Theon, I guess. But this time winter is coming and I'm actually a little worried. Kingdom is so well thought out and every aspect treats its characters and viewers with respect. It's just a wonderful setting to watch this story play out in. Whether you're leaving this video intrigued by Kingdom or heavily spoiled, I really hope you give it a watch. A lot of zombie shows put focus on the characters. At the end of the day, The Last of Us would just be known for vaguely cool zombie mechanics without Ellie and Joel. I didn't even touch on how great the characters in the show are. Lee Chang is a great protagonist. He's easy to root for, but still flawed. He can be pretty petty at times, but he faces consequences for his actions and really internalizes his mistakes. He also surrounds himself with fun and unique characters to go on this journey with. But any zombie story can have good characters, because it needs them. It's the setting of Kingdom that really sets it apart from other zombie stories. When every zombie show or movie setting looks the same, the historical context of Kingdom adds something new and effectively subverts the genre. I've never seen a zombie show quite like this, and more people should know about it. It led me down a rabbit hole of exploring Korean history, and with the ever-crashing wave of Korean media over to the West, I think learning more about the history and culture of the country is important. This may seem like a random video choice, but my roommate and I fell in love with this show, and with very vague hopes of a third season, I just wanted to talk about it again. Plus, I love some horror media. Yes, Halloween was 3 weeks ago, but that does not stop me from continuing to celebrate. Also, I had no ideas for Thanksgiving video. The only Thanksgiving media I could think of were some Friends episodes, but everyone's talked about Friends and the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special. And while I have some absolutely hot takes on Peppermint Patty and her and I look the same, those opinions die with me. Besides, Kingdom is about hunger. Look at them, all gathering around, enjoying a meal together. Isn't that what Thanksgiving's about? I hope you learned something new watching this video. Kingdom is such a good show, and not just a good historical drama or political drama or zombie show. It's just a good show. But also, yeah, it's a good zombie show. Yes, Kingdom is my favorite zombie media, but you are welcome to fight me on this. I know I have different criteria for ranking zombie media, and that's okay. To me. Let me know what your favorite zombie media is down below. Is it World War Z? I really hope you mean the book and not the movie, otherwise I will judge you. Is it the parody of Dawn of the Dead from the Halloween episode of the hit Canadian cartoon 16 called Dude of the Living Dead? I love Halloween cartoons, you do not have to convince me. Anyway, go watch Kingdom. Hey guys, it's Credits Katie. I gotta say, I had so much fun making this video and I learned a ton, which is added to one of my favorite shows. Also, gotta say, I am not exaggerating when I talk about the uniqueness of Kingdom's setting. When I looked up zombie shows made in a historical setting, the only other thing that came up was Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. So yeah, pretty untouched genre. Also, sorry that I'm dumb and I wore a black sweater on a black couch. I know I look like a floating head in this video, but at least I hope I'm a cute floating head. The credits for my videos always have the sources that I use and are great resources for further reading if you're curious. I highly encourage you to check out more, and of course watch Kingdom. Anyway, cheers. I'm actually watching Orem High School Host Club.